Happy Friday, everybody. The Conservabrarian here, coming live from the car on the way home from work. And I thought about it this morning. It came to me about how the Republicans failed in the election, especially in the state of, here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is not about a stolen election. There were discrepancies in the election. The mail-in balloting was a disaster. But the Republican-led House and the Republican-led Senate in Harrisburg did change things. They were cowards. I think if you're voting, there's two ways: absentee ballot and you show up at the polls. I think it's going to be very difficult for this mail-in voting to go away, to be changed. This is why you need to primary every single Republican. It does not stand for true conservative values. So I'm excited to see Joe Gale running for governor of Pennsylvania. We have our governor here, Tom Wolf, is term limited. And I think Joe Gale's a no-nonsense conservative. He means what he says what he means, and looking forward to seeing him evolve throughout this next 2 years in the 2022 gubernatorial race against most likely Josh Shapiro, who is the Attorney General of Pennsylvania. But the question is, without taking out the whole thing about mail-in voting, and how did Donald Trump lose? How did he lose Pennsylvania? Because he won Pennsylvania in 2016. Well, that's quite simple. After you think about it, it makes sense. COVID was a gift. Jane Fonda said it. There was a Democrat, somebody in the world of the Democrat Party, I think, wrote a book just recently about and said that COVID was a gift because the economy was rolling before COVID happened. Unemployment was down across the board, every single race, creed, color. Regulations, small businesses were thriving. So it definitely had an impact, COVID. And it really, they used it to their advantage by throwing bumper sticker slogans like Trump kills, he doesn't care about people, he doesn't care about the virus, and they played it over and over again. And of course, the media will back up anything in that camp, the Hollywood, pundits. So when you throw out that message to people, it'll stick, and it did. But when it comes to Pennsylvania, the biggest disappointment was the collar counties. For those of you who don't know what the collar counties are, surrounding Pennsylvania are the suburban counties, which is Chester, Montgomery, and Bucks. And then you can include up north towards the Poconos, you can include Lehigh County and Northampton County. Now, Lehigh County will always, for the most part, will go Democrat because of Allentown. Allentown's the third largest city, and it will go to the Democrats. But Northampton County was lost to Donald Trump this time around. He'd won in 2016. He even lost Carbon County, which is the old zinc area of Pennsylvania at the base of the Poconos. So the question even becomes more pressing. How did that happen? He lost Chester and Montgomery and Bucks, but it wasn't a big loss. He lost ground this time in those counties. So without Philly, we have Philly, Pittsburgh, and of course State College, because that's where Penn State is, and that's a big lefty area because it's a college town. And then you have the collar counties. Everything else is red. Everything else. So again, finally, what was the issue? And the issue was messaging. The Democrats were good on message. George Floyd and the race riots and the the race wars of Kenosha and in Minneapolis and all over the Black Lives Matter protests. Now, we're not talking about protesting. I'm talking about the riots, the burning, the looting, the killings. It was mayhem. And it was perfect timing for the Democrats because it happened on Memorial Day. The George Floyd thing happened on Memorial Day. Oh, you had Breonna Taylor. You can add Jacob Blake. All of those names created the perfect storm. And you had COVID, and it was a gift for the Democrats. Because before COVID happened, Joe Biden was a disaster. He still is, but at the time, he was just the hope and prayer. Oh, okay, we'll take Biden. He locked the nomination right before COVID happened, and the Democrats weren't thrilled. They weren't. It wasn't a big sell. It was just, we'll take it and just hope for the best. But when COVID happened and the George Floyd, they kept Biden in close proximity to his basement. And they used the excuse as COVID to keep him in there, but it was for his own good. Because they could use COVID as an excuse and keep him there and run their messaging of white people this, and Donald Trump is hateful, and he's a bigot, and he hates this, and he kills people, and it just ran over and over and over again. But I think the biggest factor was the suburban vote, the suburban woman vote, the soccer mom, the hockey mom, the take Johnny and Janie to dance practice and the flute practice, the middle to upper middle class housewife who could have a job. I'm not saying they're not working, but they live a life of of a certain realm, in a certain bubble. You can almost hear the conversations. Betty, did you see that George Floyd? Oh, it was horrible. Yes, Jane. It's terrible. That white cop. Do you believe that cops hate black people? I would have never seen the day. Oh my gosh. It's terrible. Of course it is terrible. But it creates a situation of convenience that the Democrats can lock up emotion, can lock up the strife, the anger, and try to message it towards the demographics of white suburban housewives. Using that as a white person, aren't you angry? Shouldn't you look at your white privilege? Betty, did you see they were talking about white privilege? And I've never thought about it before, but yes, we have white privilege. That's right, Jane. I agree. I think we should do something. There's all these protests. I think the least we can do is put signs in front of our house. Say Black Lives Matter. I think we should do that. Yes, because we can't forget Jacob Blake, that heroic figure. And we cannot forget men like Michael Brown. I just never realized how horrible we are. Yes. And that Donald Trump, because there's an election coming up, and, my husband loves Donald Trump, but I don't like him. He is such a mean guy on Twitter. He's a meanie guy. He's such an a-hole. I don't like him. Now, is that real reality conversation? I don't know. But it sounds plausible, right? It sounds like something could happen. My old assistant in my job, I have an assistant what I do, and she's a big Democrat. And I said to her, this was during the election in the springtime, I guess. And it was last year. I think it was 2019. Anyway, and she found out I'm a conservative and a Donald Trump supporter, and she was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And she goes, well, my husband's a Donald Trump supporter. I said, oh, okay. So that must be an interesting household. And I said, so who are you for? She goes, I don't know. I'll just anybody but Trump. I said, well, what's wrong with Trump? He's an ass. I don't like him. It's all emotion. It's just he says things. Well, don't you like lower taxes and all this stuff? And yeah, but he's so mean. I can't take him. He makes me angry. I said, okay. I said, well, what happens if Bernie is the nominee? Because Bernie's like, he's so radical. Free this, and she knows, she can tell in her face that there's no such thing as free college or free health care. And I'm explaining about government and the Constitution. I'm trying to explain it to her. And I mentioned Bernie, and she goes, oh, like Bernie, yeah, I think I'm going to have to. She could not rationalize the fact that Bernie was so outrageous, but her hatred of Donald Trump was so rampant. She couldn't let it go. Anybody but Trump, even a socialist for Trump. That is the vote that we need as conservatives. We need to get back to the messaging. Because in the 2020 election, the issues were thrown out the window. And you're starting to see Biden and his policies. They want to just throw $15 an hour minimum wage and just slap it in a bill. They have no idea that it will ruin people's businesses. No idea. It'll just ruin many businesses. Small businesses will be eliminated. They'll just go right. So if that goes through, people just, I'm selling my business, I'm firing my employees. I can't do that. Gas is going up to $3. It's almost at $3. It's $2.99 now. The economy will tank. And you could just sit back and say, thank you, soccer mom, because of your selfishness, you didn't like his tweets. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. Thanks for voting for Biden. Because we told you this was going to happen. Conservatives have to focus. Push back on the radical left. Push back. That's enough. Push our values of conservatism and freedom, individual freedom, and not be afraid of it. There's Brian Fitzpatrick, and the last thing is, out of Bucks County, Representative Brian Fitzpatrick, who's a Republican, who's very popular with Democrats because he goes to both sides. He voted for this Equality Act, and no one's saying we're not for equality, but this has nothing to do with equality. This is to transform gender and gender roles. It has nothing to do with equality, and he voted for it. Why? Why would he vote for it? Primary him. We got to get rid of these rhinos. They are cowards. The Pat Toomeys of the world. The men in the image of Tom Corbett. Get rid of them. Mitch McConnell. If you're an image of Mitch McConnell, you're out. You got to go. Pay attention, conservative. Yes, the mail-in voting is going to be a problem. Yes, it's going to be an issue. But if we stay on message and we tap into that vote that we lost in 2020, we can return and have a House of Representatives of constitutional conservatives with an R after their name, not just in name only. And we can fight the AOCs, the Ilhan Omars, the Tlaibs, and Sheldon Whitehouses, the Jamie Raskins, the Eric Swalwells, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck Schumers, all of them. These people are evil. And Ben Shapiro was talking about a poll the other day that a majority of Democrat voters think Donald Trump supporters are the biggest threat in America, along with white supremacy. It's insane. Absolutely insane. It's not even about policy. It's about the Democrats are good at fear. They're good at it. Don't fall for it. Talk to a conservative. If you talk to a conservative, all that stereotypical horse mess, that Bullstein, is fake. The racism and all that, and all the white, it's all made up. They've been pulling this crap for decades. And someone like Donald Trump fought back. And he's starting to convert these people that were kind of, wishy-washy. And we're driving the right direction. And if Donald Trump doesn't run in 2024, he'll be a major part of this. He'll have influence. Are you a Trump Republican? Are you a Trump conservative? Yes, no. What are you? And those who are not with the program, hit the road. Get them out. All right. Happy Friday. If you're a suburban housewife, get your S together. Stop worrying about emotions so much. Start paying attention to how, if you have kids, are your kids going to be okay in the future? Because I have a son coming. I don't want my son living in a world of a presidency of like an AOC. Hell nah. See you later.